This demonstration will show you how to use the delete list step to delete a SharePoint list automatically within a K2 workflow. You can use this workflow step in any business process that requires deleting a list from a site in your SharePoint environment. It's also a very helpful workflow step to use if you have automated governance or administration models applied to your SharePoint architecture. For example, you may have an archiving process that moves or copies content to another location and then deletes the list from its current site. Let's take a look at a workflow that demonstrates this capability. Here I have a custom list called Customer Survey Requests that is used in a process that allows a sales department to request to have customer surveys created and exposed on a SharePoint subsite called Surveys. At the end of the survey process, the process calls for the survey results to be archived and the list to be deleted from the survey subsite. I have the basics of this workflow already set up, so this demonstration will focus on the delete list workflow step in order to show you how to implement this capability in one of your own processes. When you first drag and drop the delete step wizard on your design canvas, you want to open it up and first work through naming the workflow step, setting up your outcomes if necessary, and then getting into the Specify List window. From here, you have two ways to configure the wizard so that it can find a reference to the specific list you want to delete. Actually, I've already done the work to get a reference to the list by using the Get List Reference step in a previous step, but I'll talk about this option in just a minute. You can use the Browse to List configuration by first selecting the site collection where your list lives. The next window in this path is called Specify Filters. Here you can plug values into fields that will help the wizard get a reference to the list in the selected site collection when the workflow step runs. Keep in mind, finding the list reference this way makes this list reference available inside this wizard only. No other workflow steps will be able to reuse the reference you configure here outside of this wizard. Also, take a look at all the filter field options available here in this list. Make sure to be as specific in the filter inputs as you can to narrow the wizard down to the exact list you want. My customer survey lists get created in the Surveys subsite in my portal site collection. So to get there, I will enter the following value in the subsite relative URL field. Then, to help the wizard zero in on the specific library in that subsite, I can use any combination of these other fields if necessary. The ID field works the best if you have access to the list's GUID. As I mentioned earlier, the work to find the list reference was actually already done. I used the Get List Reference wizard in an earlier step to create a reference to the list in order to make it available to all steps in the workflow. I'm actually going to back up and use that reference by selecting the Use a List that is referenced in this workflow option from the Specify List window. The next step after completing either of those reference configurations is to determine if you would like to have the list sent to the SharePoint recycle bin or have it deleted permanently. But be cautious when deleting it permanently. The only way to get it back will be from an archive if you performed an archive process in earlier steps, or retrieve it from backup via your organization's SharePoint backup and restoration plan. One last thing to be sure of is to make sure the K2 service account has access to delete lists in the designated site. That's the last step for this wizard, so from here I'll finish up and deploy the workflow, and we can take a look at the working example. This workflow is set up to run when an item is updated and set to archive in the customer survey request list. When this happens, the delete path is followed if the status of the list item is changed to archive. You can see here that I have a survey list created to capture some information about an installation at a customer site. It lives under the Surveys subsite in the Portal site collection. Going back over to the survey request list, here I'll save the corresponding request record and set its status to archive. Now I'll save it, and the workflow should kick off and delete the survey list. So now I'll go over to the survey subsite and refresh, and we should see the list disappear from the quick launch. We would like to thank you for watching this demo on how to use the Delete List wizard. We hope you have a better understanding of how and when you can use this workflow step within processes used by your organization.